Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back. This is Chimera Lead, and sorry, but it's been a while. I've been moving around, getting stuff done with school, finals, and taking a summer class, but enough of that. They have changed the game yet again. Now, before we get into the major changes, right now, all I'm gonna do is look at my leader and see the passive and active skills that are unique to the Sisters of Sigmar. You have Absolute Faith, Divine Aegis, Protection of Sigmar, and on the active side, you have Prey of Swiftness, Righteous Fury, and Sign of Sigmar. Let's start with the passives. Now, Absolute Faith increases fear, terror, all alone, and route tests by 5%. Mastery triples that bonus to 15%, and it requires 9 leadership. Now, leadership increases morale value by 1, increases your chances of, succeeding psychological tests such as fear and all alone by 4% for every point. Now, I haven't been playing the game a whole lot because I've been busy, but right now I don't really see a huge need for fear, terror, or all alone checks, because right now I believe there are very few units that actually really use fear or terror, and most of the time you're not going to be all alone in these fights. Most of the time you're going to be with at least one other of your units, and especially because you're a Sister of Sigmar, you don't have really any ranged options, and as a result, your units have to be close knit and close together. Otherwise, one gets caught out, the others have really no good way to support her. So I wouldn't really choose Absolute Faith. Now, Divine Aegis is also okay. It's not bad. Against, say, human mercenaries, the mercs, possibly even the Skaven. Divine Aegis is also very, very good, especially the Mastery. It increases your range resistance by 5%, and the Mastery triples it. You do need 9 intelligence, and what intelligence gives you overall increases the damage dealt by your spells by 3%, increases your chance to succeed at mental condition tests such as stupidity by 3%, increases magic resistance by 1%, and stun resistance by 2%. So intelligence isn't actually that bad, especially if it's on your main kind of sister, because she does have skills and spells that she can be able to cast, that she can actually get and learn. I believe. Yeah, she does. But for the most part, it's not bad. But it's kind of another one of those things where I'm of two minds about it, where yes, it can be good against these two armies, but against these two other armies, you're not really going to get much of a benefit from it. Say if you're up against another group of sisters, if you're up against chaos and they just went full melee in their chaos, you're getting no benefit from this. So, again, this is just me. I don't really like things that are only specifically good against this army. Now, if you're running into a lot of that specific army, then yes, there's a major need for that specific skill. But in the state that the game is in right now, it's still a little bit shaky. Now, Protection of Sigmar is literally the exact same thing, but in my opinion, this is the worst choice. Not the worst choice. The most specific choice out of the 3. Because with Absolute Faith, it increases your, let me check. Absolute increases your fear, terror, and all alone, and route tests by 5%. Divine Aegis, probably the best one, increases range resistance, and Protection from Sigmar increases, you guessed it, magic resistance. Now, the problem with this is that there really isn't a whole lot of magic in the game, and the magic that is there, in the forms that I've experienced it, have not been extremely potent. In games like Dogs of War, you had casters who could very, not easily, but very possibly two-shot some of your units. So either taking them out very quickly, or having the spells being soaked up by your just fodder type units was very important. But in this game, because of how much health that everyone has, and because of the relatively low damage that spells deal, I need to do a little bit more experimentation with them, obviously. But with the experimentation, a magic attack is really in the forms that I've seen it, is really just another type of ranged attack of a different sort. And it's going to be a little while before I can really kind of get into the meat of that and see, okay, what else does this spellcasting bring to the table? Because spells can be extremely powerful, and I want to check out the I can never figure out how to pronounce this guy's name off the top of my head. The Sneeches, curses, and how those really affect and how often they proc, because if those come into come into play a whole lot more than I realize, then having resistance against spells just to counteract that problem could be huge. So that's just my two cents on the passive skills. Now the active skills, Prayer of Swiftness, Righteous Fury, and Sign of Sigmar they're okay. Prayer of Swiftness, a quick prayer that increases the chances to dodge of the skill user by 15%. A dodging stance must be used after the casting of this skill for the skill to be effective. It does not stack. The mastery requires 9 intelligence, and it doubles that dodge chance. Fantastic ability. I love this. Why? Because if you're in a pickle, you can just, and if you haven't really moved around a whole lot that turn, you can literally just pop Prey of Swiftness, dodge stance, and you have a hell of a lot more survivability than you did before, which is fantastic. Now, Righteous Fury, which I'm not going to buy, targets a single enemy, a melee attack, which has a 25% chance, has a penalty of 25% on its chance to hit, but if it is successful, it reduces the maximum offensive and strategy points by up to 1 for the next turn. It is not stackable, and the mastery doubles those penalties to the offense and strategy points to 2, and the penalty to hit is reduced to 15%. Requires 9 weapon skill. Also, pretty good if you're trying to focus down one enemy and you can just keep on wailing on them with Righteous Fury. And I don't mean like wail on them with just multiple Righteous Furies, but I mean like, because you have a minus 25% chance to hit, so you need to try to hit him at least like 2 or 3 times for this to actually land. And once it lands, you can stop and just keep on doing what you're doing and move on. So this is also pretty good. Sign of Sigmar is also pretty good, I actually think. A quick prayer that increases the melee and range resistance of the warrior by 5%, not stackable. Mastery doubles that range and melee resistance bonus, and because it's kind of a spell, it requires 9 intelligence. It also costs 4 strategy points. So it's not bad. It is not bad. None of the active skills are bad or very, very subjective, because Sign of Sigmar melee and range resistance by 5%. Righteous Fury, everyone has offensive and strategy points. Prayer of Swiftness, it's to you, increases your ability to avoid damage to you. So I've always been a little bit wary of passives, and I've always kind of been a proponent of actives because I just feel like, at least right now, I can visually kind of see where they are at and the real effect that they have on the character. And Sign of Sigmar, Righteous Fury, and Prayer of Swiftness are all fantastic abilities and skills that you should get. Prayer of Swiftness, definitely. It just flat out increases your survivability if you're in the middle of a melee, just brawling it out, and you have strategy points left over to use. It's fantastic. And the passives, I'm going to be working with them a little bit in the future because I have time for the most part. I leave for class, and I have my job and whatever, but I have time in between those two things, so everything's fine. Okay. Now, right now we're done looking at the skills. What I want to quickly look at are the spells which are available. You have Comet of Sigmar, deals between 12 to 17 damage, which bypasses armor absorption. And it's not bad. And Mastery kind of doubles that. Increases the range to 30 meters. And I'm not sure what Divine Wrath actually does. So you have Sigmar's Might. The caster and or every ally in the area of 5 meters. The weapons wielded by the targets gain an increase of 5% to melee critical attempt and 10% to melee damage. Very good. Mastery, as usual, doubles it. I'm going to assume that Divine Wrath is kind of like the curses for the Chaos or for the Skaven, because, there's always a chance of a backlash. But yeah, that's pretty good. Blessing of... I believe I looked up at a Blessing of Athletics before, and it's not terrible. But to be honest, in some instances where you need to get somewhere as a heavily armored cleric, you're going to need this because you can't really move all that well in heavy armor. 15% chance for climb, leap, and jump down. And it's the same radius as Sigmar's Might. 5 meters in a radius around the caster. And, it's a spell, so you need intelligence to do it. It's not great. I typically like, because I know Chaos has something similar, where a unit can get better chances to move just in general, like jumping down, climbing, and things like that. But I say those guys, sorry, that's my phone, but I say those guys, and I kind of recommend that for the Chaos because you can get some decent support abilities and skills for the Chaos Archers, the range guys. And I think they're cultists, actually. But anyway, and them getting to places is extremely important for them staying safe. And with the clerics and with the Sisters of Sigmar, well, let's just say that maybe they need to get someone. But to be honest, their main objective shouldn't be necessarily to get to someone, but to deal with enemy right in front of them and crush them with their very good melee capabilities. Because let's be honest, that's literally their thing. They only have melee abilities. Well, they only have melee, just melee physical abilities. They don't have access to any firearms or any ranged weaponry other than spells. Divine Revelation is another pretty good spell. The target gains a bonus of 25% to range resistance and 5% to melee resistance. And Mastery doubles that, which is fantastic for them because you can literally just cast this. Like right now, at max level, Erla Polison can cast this thing 3 times. And at max level, I'm going to have this thing mastered, which also means that essentially range damage is not going to be any sort of problem for her army, for her warband. It's just not going to be a problem, and that's awesome. That is an awesome thing. As someone who loves just flat out melee builds of warbands or armies in a lot of instances, like for this game and for Dogs of War that you guys have seen. Hell, I played the Wolfen. Some of their best guys were just flat out melee, and I had a pretty much purely melee squad just running in and doing pretty well. And then the whole OP Guardians of the Equilibrium and all that jazz. It's kind of screwed over the whole meta or whatever you want to call it. But as those armies and those warbands, ranged abilities in general were a huge bane to your army because you couldn't really respond until you got up in their faces. At which point you tore them apart, but you were at a disadvantage until you could get there. The Wolfen had a counter to that. You had a 50% chance, I think, or a 30% chance to just nullify the range attack, like the arrow coming your way, because you were very hard to hit, and because there's an actual spell you could get. What Divine Revelation does is it does pretty much the exact same thing, and it's awesome. Because yeah, you're gonna get hit, but you're taking half damage, which is amazing. Well, half damage at mastery, and earlier, like, you're taking 25% less damage, which is fantastic. Also, it makes your melee capabilities even better. Makes you even tougher, which is literally what they should be doing. That's great. Hearts of the Griffin. The caster and every ally in the radius of 5 meters, and the targets become immune to all alone tests. And mastery, it increases the range to 30 meters, and the targets are also immune to fear. This is also a little bit on the side of it's a spell, yeah, okay. It's not terrible. It's also a little bit specific. Going back to what I was talking about, the all alone tests before, you don't really need it, because as an all melee fighting force, you kind of need the backup of all of your units to crush the enemy where they are and tear them apart there, and then you can maybe spread out and like maybe split your army in two, but even then that's super dangerous. So I would not advise Hearts of the Griffin. Healing Circle. Its name tells you everything you need to know. Every ally in the area of 5 meters, you give back up to 20 wounds to wounded allies. Mastery doubles it to 40 wounds. And, yeah, that's 40 wounds. Might not seem like a lot, but every single wound you can get counts. Every little bit. That's 40 more wounds at mastery that they have to slice through to get you dead or downed. Sigmar's Second Wind. Let's see how this works out. Wow. Okay. You target a single ally. Give the target up to 2 offensive points that can be used to counterattack enemies. If the target is stunned, it will also recover and get back up. Wow. Mastery increases the amount of offensive points to 4, and the range, as usual, increases to 30 meters. That is huge. That is huge. at mastery, you're essentially transferring from yourself up to 4 offensive points, because it costs of 4 offensive points in the beginning. Wow, so you can really build your Sigmar matriarch, your leader of your Sisters of Sigmar, into a just buffing machine. Like, at this point, I might just build her full support in the future. Because right now, I don't really want to focus on gameplay. Sorry, guys. I want to really focus on how the game is building up. Because for me, progression is massive. And I'll be covering the newest update, because we just hit early access phase 5, I believe. Content update 0.19.4.5. I'm just looking at the notes right now, and they added a few very nice things, and that will be in the next video, which should be up probably later tonight. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.